Remember, you're muted in here, Mark, if you are on answer back. Okay, awesome. All right, I'll shut up, Karen, then, guys. Thank you. Sorry.
So welcome along then to Brands Hatch. A few technical issues, but we are halfway through the first of our two British Formula 3 iRacing Championship in association with Apex Racing TV races. Nico Verone pulling away in the lead and is looking to try and make good his escape, while Jake Dalton is now up into second place. Ulysse de Pauw is in third, and Harrison Scott is having to drive a very wide car. He sits there in fourth place, coming under immense pressure from second in the championship, Piers Pryor, but Piers Pryor has got Kieran Vernon at the wheel of the Chris Dittman racing car. Right behind him, 3 as 1, turning their way down in towards Graham Hill Bend. Exciting racing for the remaining, 9 minutes or so we're going to have. But it's Jack Canaan that joins me in commentary.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. As we look at this battle continuing on, I just saw just before that we got back underway, Jake Dalton running wide out of Hawthorne. He managed to keep the car at a straight line just about, but he's kept going, and now we keep an eye on Kieran Vernon. Piers Pryor has to defend into Hawthorne, keeps him behind for now. Tricky place to overtake. Now with the switchback, he might have a think about it here. Pryor immediately covers that off on the inside line. Good driving, but now Josh Mason is now right in this fight as well as they go through up towards Sheen Curve into Dingledell. And right on his tail, really tricky to overtake around here. It's not a place that you can overtake in many corners, so Kieran Vernon's got to try and find some space, but he's also got to watch his mirrors for Josh Mason.
He has got to watch his mirrors, yeah. Up 12 places now from the back of the grid is Emo Fittipaldi Jr. Chris Meelan's also up 12. And NM Ahmed, former champion, is up 14 places. So there's been some big shuffles as a result of incidents. Lap number 11 they head on to with just 8 minutes to go. Kieran Vernon still in that dichotomy, wants to attack Piers Pryor ahead of him, but conscious that he's got Josh Mason sitting behind him. He's the meat in the Lannon Racing sandwich at the moment. Turning our way through Druids, where the circuit heads back downhill again in towards the braking area for the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend. A good exit out of here along the Cooper Straight might offer up a slight possibility up towards Surtees, but as you suggested, it is so tough to overtake. Now, this is probably going to be one of the best opportunities here for Kieran Vernon. Getting the slipstream, heading over Pilgrim's Drop and down in towards Hawthorne could be an opportunity, but I just think he's still just too far away, isn't he?
Yeah, hasn't quite got enough. He needs to be right on the gearbox of Piers Pryor there. Pryor did a good job. You can see the tracks of where Jake Dalton went off earlier in the grass on the right-hand side as you look at the shot. And again, just in the background, Josh Mason running a bit wide on the exit right there. So he drops a little bit of pace now. And Vernon trying to stick with Piers Pryor, but Piers on a good lap this time and trying to chase after Harrison Scott. So Scott's broken away, as has de Pauw, and actually de Pauw is actually starting to challenge Jake Dalton just a small bit as they now spread out, but Verone is having no problems whatsoever. We look at de Pauw now, is he now in the slipstream of Jake Dalton, and Dalton could be vulnerable here because he hasn't got a slipstream off of Nico Verone, but de Pauw is just in there and setting personal best lap times. Harrison Scott matching the leader that time.
Yeah, Ulysse de Pauw has had a win and a second place. The win came at Spa. The second place came at Silverstone. They're his two best results of the season so far. But for Jake Dalton, he's only had one top 10 finish. That was down in something like, I think it was 9th position in the second of the two races at Silverstone. So this is by far his best performance so far. He's just not had the luck. He's still sitting there in second place with de Pauw closing in all of the time. Just runs a little bit wide again on that occasion as they headed out of Surtees. But I think de Pauw is sufficiently far away that it's not going to get him too far in the slipstream. So 3 light blue cars altogether for second, third and fourth place. Jake Dalton, Ulysse de Pauw and Harrison Scott. Remember, driving one-handed, having broken his right wrist last week. And de Pauw again, a bit like Josh Mason on the previous lap, almost ran wide there coming out of Westfield Bend.
They're really trying to push the limits here. Of course, they do have the off tracks that they've got to watch out for. There is a limit on them, and they cannot afford to continue to run off the road too much, and it is quite brutal around here. So Dalton just building enough of a gap now, but there's small mistakes creeping in which might play into the hands of Ulysse de Pauw as they come across the line to begin lap number 12 of the 20 minutes that we've got here. So Dalton about 6 tenths per second. Harrison Scott again faster than the leader. Piers Pryor setting good pace behind. So Harrison Scott's starting to think about maybe challenging Ulysse de Pauw for that third place.
Yeah, they're also sitting up 4th and 5th in the championship. Harrison Scott is 4th. His Douglas Motorsport teammate, Ulysse de Pauw, is 4 points behind him and lies 5th in the championship. So it's inter-team rivalry as well. Both desperately want to finish ahead of each other, but the one thing they won't want to do is take each other out, because in the team standings, Douglas Motorsport are currently sitting 3rd in the team standings. Chris Dittman Racing, largely because of what Nico Verone and others have done this year, are 2nd, but Lannon and Piers Pryor racing top the championship table side by side, and Harrison Scott's going to try on the outside at Hawthorn. Very brave move, and he got the job done. Fantastic stuff from Harrison Scott. Teed up the move perfectly round the outside at Hawthorn and takes away the place.
That must be move of the season. Let's have a look at that again as they come through. He manages to just creep around the outside right there. Lovely job. And not easy to do with the speed that you carry through. Let's just have a, yeah, we're going to have a look at this again. We're going to ride on board with Harrison Scott now. So he sees the space open up on the left-hand side. They almost hit as they come through, but he has the bravery to chuck it around the outside, fighting the car all the time, shuts the door and releases the power. That is beautiful and really brave. Well done, Harrison Scott. One-handed.
Yeah, one-handed, literally clinging on for dear life, I would have thought, onto the steering wheel there. So Harrison Scott now is up into 3rd place. Ulysses de Pauw is down into 4th. 5th place, still not that far away, is Piers Pryor as well. So he will desperately want to try and close in because he lies 2nd in the championship standings, and Piers Pryor is being put under pressure from the car that sits behind, Kieran Vernon, who is the driver coach for Chris Dittman Racing. Did do a bit of racing in BRDC F3 a few years ago. So here comes the train of cars. There is Piers Pryor. Remember, he took a win last time out at Silverstone. He's been Mr. Consistency really so far this season in the championship. Had a bit of bad luck in race 1 at Silverstone, but other than that, he's been in the top 6 in every race, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done an incredible job to keep the consistency going. That's why he's lying 2nd in the championship. Not far off Verone, but Verone has been Mr. Consistency in the form of race number 1s, where he's just taken win after win after win. So it's been consistency of a different kind for Piers Pryor, just keeping the results up there. Finally got a win, of course, last week. And now starting to challenge for 4th place as Harrison Scott and Ulysses de Pauw start to fight it out again. See if de Pauw is going to try and come back at Harrison Scott. Jake Dalton, as a result, has just built enough of a gap to keep himself in front. There's just under 17 minutes gone in this race, 3 minutes left to go, so we should have another 3 to 4 laps to go. And Kieran Vernon, as we say that, starting to think about a challenge on Piers Pryor, and Pryor covering that off immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Wise to that was Piers Pryor. Just made sure that he closed the door, stopped Kieran Vernon coming through. Kieran Vernon will try and get a good exit coming out of Graham Hill Bend onto the Cooper straight, but the best opportunity is coming out of Surtees, this next left-hander. Needs to be careful he doesn't get too close to the car ahead, otherwise that will affect his aerodynamics. But now the good run coming out of Surtees will allow him to close in the slipstream as they head on towards Pilgrim's Drop and down towards Hawthorn Bend. He's not close enough though. He's not going to do what Harrison Scott did to Ulysses de Pauw a couple of laps ago. So Kieran Vernon still sitting rather frustratingly there in 6th place at the moment, with the man who lies 2nd in the championship, Piers Pryor, directly ahead. Nice and neat and tidy, both of them through Westfield Bend. The circuit heads downhill through Dingledale, then climbs back up towards one of the most challenging corners really, the blind entry, isn't it, into Sheen Curve. You pitch the car in and it's only when you've committed to the right-hander you finally see the apex.
Yeah, it's really tricky to get right, and there'll be a lot of guys trying to learn that as we go back to Bart Horston, who is just behind Ben Hingley, and Einam Ahmed, who is in 10th place just up the road. He's got past them. So Bart Horston not having the best of runs out at the moment is Bart Horston. We usually see him up around the top 5 fight, but it obviously hasn't gone his way at the moment, and he's chasing after Ben Hingley, trying to get up at that 11 and possibly trying to get that 10th place as well. Interesting to note as well, Verone about half a second slower than Jake Dalton, but I think he should have enough to stay in front at this point.
Yeah, Bart Horston was 3rd quickest in the official test earlier on this week, but just maybe didn't quite get the pace there, as moving out of the way goes Nikolai Kiergaard to let the 2 quicker cars go through. So the fight is on again between Ben Hingley and Bart Horston for what is now 10th and 11th places. With Nico Verone having checked out all of the time. He leads by almost 5 seconds now. Time ticking away. We're almost into the final minute of this race as well. But Bart Horston, has he got anything else that he can throw at the car he's trying to attack as they come over the start-finish line? Let's have a quick look back at the replay. Now this is Bart Horston and Ben Hingley absolutely together coming up towards Clearways Corner. You can see them on the very ragged edge there, and as they head over the start-finish line, Horston gets in the slipstream of Ben Hingley, jinks out, draw himself alongside, but he didn't quite get through. Now we have the fight on for 2nd place. Jake Dalton under enormous pressure from Harrison Scott as they head up towards Hawthorn. Harrison Scott runs up the inside of Jake Dalton as he runs wide heading round through that corner, and that now means that Harrison Scott in the replay moves up to 2nd position. He's having a great run considering he's driving one-handed. What a move again.
Yeah, well, he may have to adapt his car when he comes back in real life to be just one-handed. He seems to do just fine without that hand. So Verone from Harrison Scott now. Jake Dalton is third. And you see this train starting to form. This is Kieran Vernon, Piers Pryor ahead of him, Ulysses DePau, Jake Dalton, and now Harrison Scott just a bit away. But now Josh Mason has now got involved. Now who's going to be the one to make moves here? Piers Pryor closing on Ulysses DePau. Vernon trying to keep in there as well as they come down towards Hawthorne again. Pryor not quite close enough this time. Vernon dropping off a little bit now. This could come down right down to the wire because, of course, the next race is, of course, race number 2 with the full reverse grid. So, of course, the further you finish up, the lower you will start. But either way, you still want to start as far up the grid. You still want to finish as far up the grid as you want to. This has been a really close fight, but Verone has really had no issues.
He hasn't now. It's what, a 6-second gap now that Nico Verone has got over everybody who wants to be second at the moment. There's only a final corner to go. That will look rather close. Ulysses DePau looking to try and gain a place, and Dalton's gone off. Yeah, off has gone Dalton. Verone takes the checkered flag. Harrison Scott finishes in second place. Ulysses DePau comes through and finishes in third place, ahead of Piers Pryor in fourth, Kieran Vernon in fifth, and big gainer there, Ollie Clark, sixth in the end. He had been leading, made that mistake, but comes through in sixth place. But the battle's still continuing. We've still got Bart Horston fighting away with Ben Hinchley, but the order's now reversed, isn't it? It's now Bart Horston ahead of the 77 of Ben Hinchley.
Yeah, this is the fight to the line between these two. So Jake Dalton going off in the last corner, and that has cost him third place in this race. At least DePau grabs that. Piers Pryor, another top 6 finish to add to his tally. We'll keep an eye on this battle between Ben Hinchley and Bart Horston and see if Hinchley can maybe try one up the inside of the last corner. I'm sure Horston is going to cover that off as they head to it. He's not quite close enough. It'll be a run to the line. It will be close, but I think Horston should just have it. See how hard Hinchley was pushing out onto the grass. Not quite close enough. Horston grabs 11th place, and Hinchley has to settle, or Horston for 10th, and Hinchley grabs 11th, with Fittipaldi will come across for 12th place. That was close, but in the end, Bart Horston just did enough.
He did. It was all very close indeed, was it? As for our guest drivers, well, Emo Fittipaldi finished in 12th position. That was up 13 places from the starting position. Let's just have a quick look at what happened there. It was, yeah, Jake Dalton. It was a big accident, wasn't it, there, as they ran side by side. It was all very close. It was all going to be tight on the run to the flag, and poor old Jake Dalton was on for his best result of the season. It just wasn't to be on that occasion, Jake, very sadly. So the drivers will now head into a very quick warm-up session, so just a 10-minute warm-up session. The top 3 drivers will join us in commentary as well, and already we can bring in the first one of those. He has done it again. He has just claimed his 3rd win of the season. Congratulations, Nico Verone. It was all to do with the start of the race, wasn't it?
Hi guys, I'm really happy. It was a great race. So yeah. Here at Brands, it's really important qualifying. Oliver did a great lap, so I was P2. So I was like, I thought I have to beat him in the start, or if not, like be behind him until he makes a mistake, because it's really difficult to pass here because you lose loads of time for going behind. So yeah, managed to start well, and it went around the outside on paddock and then on druids, and managed to overtake him. So then I just focus on make qualifying laps all the race to pull a gap, and yeah, it worked. So really happy.
Perfect race then, really. As you say, you got that gap nice and early, and then once you've got that gap, you can just control the pace from the front.
Yeah, in a really difficult circuit like France, you're going all the laps on the limit. So when you have a little bit gap, you can, leave some space than when you are fighting with cars, all around. So it was really nice. So yeah, I'm really happy. Now waiting for race 2 to see if we can get some points.
A normal service will be resumed for you in race 2. You'll be off the back of the grid. We've already seen you finish 4th from the back of the grid in the reverse grid race at Oulton Park, and we saw you finish 5th last weekend at Silverstone from the back of the grid.
Yeah, I hope so. I think there will be many incidents because the circuit is so, it's so narrow. So we will need to be like, getting away from incidents, and it's going to be difficult. But I think we can do it. But hope to get some points and still expanding the gap in the championship.
Well done, Nico. We'll let you head into the warm-up session. Get ready for race number 2. Congratulations.
Thank you to you, and well, to all the Chris Dittman squad that did nicely today.
So there we go. There's Nico Verone, our race 1 winner. Let's bring in the driver that finished in 2nd place in race number 1, Harrison Scott. Harrison, first of all, how's the wrist? it doesn't seem to be doing you any harm. You've just finished second.
Yeah, I know. Still sore, still giving me a lot of issues, but no, as you say, managed to finish second, and yeah, really happy with that. Especially mid-race, there was obviously a lot of close battles. Following in the dirty air, especially around this track, is really tough. But yeah, I got into a good rhythm, stayed patient, and picked them off there at the end.
What an amazing move of the season, Jack Canaan suggested in live commentary, round the outside of Ulysse de Pauw at Hawthorn to take second place.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a couple of laps earlier where I tried to dive up the inside of him, and I obviously saw how much speed he could then carry. So I knew I was really good in that kind of middle sector, and that's where I catch Ulysse de Pauw a lot. So I knew that was probably one of my main overtaking opportunities if I can kind of get to the outside. And yeah, once I got on the outside on obviously the racing line, it's cambered there, so I could just kind of almost send it in with a lot of speed. And yeah, fair play to Ulysse as well. He gave me lots of racing room. He kept it clean.
Well, you are teammates, and Douglas Motorsport will want the points for the team's championship.
Yeah, exactly. I could imagine Wayne was putting some faces as we were side by side there, but luckily we didn't crash.
Yeah, Wayne and Gemma will have had their virtual fingers crossed. Well done. Congratulations. All the best for race number 2. There we go, Harrison Scott. And let's bring in our final driver, who is, I'm sure, keen to get into the warm-up session, turn a few more laps, but has just finished in 3rd place. Ulysse, a very, very busy race from you.
Yeah, it was quite a tricky race. The pace was quite good, but it was really hard to follow in the slipstream. So I was a bit faster than Dalton, and I never couldn't overtake him or get closer. And Harrison Scott was faster than me, so I let him go. And he found a way to overtake him. And then in the last lap, Dalton make a small mistake, and I could jump in the last corner to overtake him. But we had a big net code, so a connection issue between both cars. So I was basically 30 centimeters far from him, and we just touched, but in the game on his screen we touched, but not on mine. So he just went off the track. So it's a shame to end the race like that.
Have you two sort of had a chat about that after the checkered flag? Because obviously we saw Jake flying through the air, but we couldn't quite exactly see what had happened. So yeah, netcode, you think?
Well, yeah, for sure. On my side, it was a netcode, and yeah, of course, we had he had a chat to me, but I don't want to say what he said because it wasn't really fair play. I must say.
Okay, well, let's hope you both have a clean race in
Yeah,
race number 2, and you can sort of hopefully have a more detailed conversation offline later on at the end of the event.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Good luck. There we go. So apologies, Jack. We wanted to rattle through them there because we obviously lost time with the technical issues early on. But great to chat to our 3 drivers. Shame that we sort of came in part the way through that race, but it didn't take away from what, as ever, was a fantastic first race.
Yeah, it was indeed. I've just been having a look, and yeah, definitely Jake Dalton. Ooh, some nasty words said between the two of them, but hopefully they'll be able to sort that out afterwards. But yeah, we've got now of course all the excitement of the reverse grid to come, and we've got a familiar face starting at the back, as always, Nico Verone. We'll see if he's able to carve his way through the field like he has done every single week. But he's looking good to secure his championship, really, heading into the next round.
He is, yeah. I mean, mathematically, he comes into this one on 134 points, plus, of course, the extra 35 points he'll have just gained there. So he'll now be on 169, subject to official confirmation, because there are other particular things that the drivers need to do offline to make themselves eligible for championship points. Not going to go into too much detail on that, but yeah, as long as he's sort of ticked a few of those boxes, which I'm sure he has, then he'll pick up maximum championship points. And for Piers Pryor, well, he's sort of lost ground a little bit more and will have been caught up by the likes of Harrison Scott and Ulysse de Pauw. So it's sort of, Nico Verone's pulling away in the lead, but 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, off the top of my head, just doing the maths, are all going to be rather close. And we've still got this race coming up and 2 more races next weekend at Donington Park to look forward to before we can crown our inaugural British Formula 3 iRacing champion in association with Apex Racing TV. So looking forward to this reverse grid race, which always proved to be even more frantic and dramatic with more talking points than usual. Just confirmation of the results then. Nico Verone claims the win from Harrison Scott in second place and his Douglas Motorsport teammate Ulysse de Pauw in third. Piers Pryor, who lies second in the championship, was fourth for Lannon Racing, and Chris Dittman Racing brought home their second car inside the top 5 with Kieran Burnham. Ollie Clark was in sixth place, the first car home for Hillspeed. In seventh, it was Josh Mason with Will Palmer, NM Ahmed, the 2 former champions, in 8th and 9th, and Bart Horston completing the top 10. Ben Hinchley was in 11th. One of our 2 guest drivers, Emo Fittipaldi Jr., was in 12th place. Then Jake Dalton, with his incident on the final corner, classified 13th in the end, ahead of Carter Williams and Josh Skelton. Vladimir Choitsis was 16th. Nikolai Kiergaard was 17th, ahead of Chris Meelan and Jonathan Hoggard, who all got tangled up in incidents early on. Tom Maxwell, Max Maserati, Billy Munger, William Wintz, Callan O'Keefe, who also joins the championship along with William Wintz this weekend, finished 23rd and 24th. Johnny Adam, the second of the 2 guest drivers, was 25th, and Louis Foster, I don't even think made the start there, which is an enormous shame for Louis Foster. We were expecting good performance from him, but wasn't to be in that one at least, Jack.
Well, that should mean that he starts on pole for the reverse grid once again, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we know we've heard from Louis constantly that he's always going for the reverse grid wins. So we'll see if he's able to pick up a third one. I think he's going for at this point.
Louis Foster, in terms of wins,
Race number 2 wins, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he won race number 2 at Oulton Park, but that's been his only top 6 finish or top 3 finish of the season so far.
Right,
and the Oulton Park
wrong now.
the Oulton Park when he had a spin and nearly threw it all the way as well, so it was rather close. So we're into the final minute of this warm-up session. Remember, this warm-up session has no impact on the grid. It is a full reverse grid of the results from race number 1, with the full amount of championship points as well. In the real BRDC F3 season, there's a reduced amount of points for the reverse grid race. And if you're a non-finisher, you still go to the very, very back, behind all the finishers. This is an absolute full reverse grid race. And remember that subject to any further changes in the calendar, when we get racing for real, the 2020 BRDC Formula 3 Championship will be at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit over the course of the weekend of the 29th and 30th of August, if you want to head there as well. The championship for real at the moment is scheduled to get underway 4 weeks prior to that up at Oulton Park in Cheshire on the 1st and the 2nd of August. So checkered flag is about to come out on this warm-up session. Nico Verone from the back to 4th at Oulton Park, from the back to 5th at Silverstone. Brands Hatch, Jack, is a different thing really. You know, it's tight and twisty like Oulton Park, probably even harder to overtake in some respects than Oulton Park. Where do you think he might get to?
It's a tough one because it's really, when you're talking about lap 1 coming from the back of the grid, you've really just got to be in a line for lap number 1, and he's got to pick his moments. And there have been incidents, so he tends to just drive his way through. I wouldn't put it past him. Maybe a top 10 would be a good result for Verone today, considering how tough it is around here.
Yeah, I think a top 10, possibly a top 6, but yeah, needs to stay out of trouble. So the grid then, Louis Foster and Johnny Adam line up on the front row of the grid with Callan O'Keefe and William Wintz, the 2 drivers new to the championship this evening on row number 2. Billy Monger, another new driver to the championship, but has raced in BRDC F3 in the past alongside Max Maserati. Tom Maxwell and Jonathan Hoggard on row number 4. Chris Meelan and Nicolan Kiergaard on row number 5 with Vladimir Choitsis and Josh Skelton for Chris Dittman Racing on row number 6. On to the 7th row of the grid, Carter Williams and Jake Dalton. Emo Fittipaldi Jr. and Ben Hinchley on row number 8, head of Bart Horston, NM Ahmed, Will Palmer and Josh Mason. Lights go out, or green flag lap goes on, so they will head off onto their green flag warming up lap, and as they head round through Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. Is it green flag lap? No, it was.
No, it's racing.
It is
racing. Johnny Adam gets the jump, but there's been a humongous crash behind involving Jonathan Hoggard. There's been, I believe there was a couple of others when Ulysse de Pauw was in that one, Billy Monger was in that. Was a humongous crash with William Wintz, Max Maserati also involved in that one. Massive, but Johnny Adam gets the jump on the outside line. Callan O'Keefe comes to second, then it's Chris Meelan, Josh Skelton, Vladimir Choitsis, Jake Dalton up to 9th, of course, Ben Hinchley. Now we look at Josh Skelton going on the outside of Chris Meelan. We've seen this done before, but not able to quite pull it off to come through Hawthorne Bend. Now to the inside, Meelan covers it off on the inside. Oh, there's a spinner in the background. That's Bart Horston around. It's another terrible race for Bart Horston, and even more massive one, flipping wildly. Josh Skelton disappears into the trees in Brands Hatch, and that's another one out of this race. But it's Johnny Adam who leads, Callan O'Keefe is second, and Vladimir Choitsis is now at the third with Jake Dalton, Ben Hinchley, Carter Williams, Emma Fittipaldi, Then Enem Ahmed, Will Palmer, Nikolai Kierkegaard, and Harrison Scott is the biggest mover out of those ones. He's up to 15th place from the back of the grid. That was total chaos, my lord.
It was absolute chaos. Sorry, I was confused because there were no lights on the gantry. All we saw was the man with the green flag. So let's have a quick look at Vladimir Choitz's start. He's the Cypriot driver who is going to be racing hopefully for hill speed this year. Lights go out, and it wasn't a bad start from him as he got off the line reasonably well, but it was all the chaos that unfolded sort of in that mid-pack section. So there we go, ahead of him we already saw cars flipping through the air upside down with an enormous 203 car accident, and that wasn't the end of what happened on lap number 1 because there were further cars involved elsewhere around the lap as they went up towards the likes of Westfield Bend. Johnny Adam looking to try and make good his escape. Vladimir Choitzis is now running in 6th position by the look of things and is looking as though he's trying to mount an attack on Enem Ahmed that sits ahead of him, the Carlin car ahead of the hill speed car. Will Palmer runs a little bit wide there coming out of Hawthorne. He's another former champion, remember, in the BRDC Formula 4 Championship as it was called at the time, also a Winter Series winner as well. And he is now looking to try and gain his way up through the order. But Johnny Adam leads from Callan O'Keefe in 2nd place, the South African, right on the coattails of the Scotsman. Callan O'Keefe finished 6th in the BRDC Formula 3 Championship back in 2007. He is now looking to try and mount a challenge for the lead of the race.
Yeah, they've got a good gap back to Ben Hingley, who now runs in 3rd. Behind him is Carter Williams. Then Enem Ahmed, Will Palmer, Jake Dalton, Nikolai Choitzis, Vladimir Choitzis, excuse me, then Nikolai Kierkegaard, then Emil Fittipaldi. Jake Dalton has had a problem, he's dropping down. And Harrison Scott, how about that from the back row, up to 10th place. Let's see if we can see what happened to Jake Dalton. Did he do it by himself? Let's have a look as he heads into turn number 1. They go side by side. Was there contact? Oh, that looked like net code to me. Off into the gravel trap in turn 1. And that's another terrible one for Jake Dalton. 2 races in a row in the barrier.
Yeah, such a shame for Jake Dalton, wasn't it? The two of them are so close together, as are these two now, Callan O'Keefe and Johnny Adam. This is for the lead of the race. Jake Dalton having sort of retired and gone into the pits. It's showing him at the top of the timing tower, but no, this is for the lead of the race. Johnny Adam under pressure from Callan O'Keefe, and Callan O'Keefe makes a mistake, drops it into the gravel trap, heading round through Stirling's. No damage to the car. He's avoided making contact with the barriers.
Oh, no.
Now he's stay out of harm's way, and then contact further back as well as what's that? That's the battle down towards the latter part of the top 10, isn't it?
That was Fittipaldi spinning, I believe, up there. He was just outside the top 10. I think most cars have managed to avoid him. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, he definitely did it by himself on the exit, and then just about managed to avoid him coming out of Sheen Curve. Yeah, very close, but very lucky. Ulista Pau, I think, just caught him right there. Lucky to get away with damage, without any damage, but that puts Harrison Scott into 8th, Kieran Vernon 9th, Piers Pryor in 10th, and Nico Verone in 11th.
Yeah, Harrison Scott nearly got tangled up in it as well. He just dipped a wheel onto the grass, didn't he, Mo Junior, which is such a shame. So Kieran Vernon now, who was quickest in the official test session earlier on in the week. He doesn't do a great deal of driving nowadays, Kieran Vernon. He is the driver coach for Chris Dittman Racing, but did do the BRDC Winter Series with Hillspeed back in 2013. It's good to see him back behind the virtual wheel at least, and is pushing hard at this stage to see whether he can close up on Harrison Scott that lies ahead. But for the moment, Harrison Scott is setting purple sectors and could be on for a very good lap here. Ulista Powell also looking to try and gain positions, down in 14th place at the moment, putting Vladimir Choitzis, the Cypriot, under pressure as they head up towards Stirling's.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a struggle for Ulista Pau to get past, because he is carrying that damage from the contact with Emil Fittipaldi Jr. You can see how much he's losing in a straight line right there as they come through the last corner. You can see Johnny Adam. There's about 0.7 of a second difference in lap time between himself and Ben Hingley, who's lapping well in 2nd place. Carter Williams is inside the top 3. Then it's Enem Ahmed and Will Palmer inside the top 5. But the guys who start down the back of the grid are all really together. You've got Harrison Scott, you've got Kieran Vernon, you've got Piers Pryor, Nico Verone, and Josh Mason as well. And Jonathan Hoggard just setting the fast lap of the race in 16th place. He's down all the way down in 16th, of course, at this point. But Harrison Scott now starting to put a charge on. Catch up, Nikolai Kierkegaard, who loses it on the exit into the wall. Nikolai Kierkegaard bites the dust, and that's another one out of this race. Harrison's got up to 7th. They all gained 1 position. That was just a mistake of his own doing by Nikolai Kierkegaard on the exit. Let's just have a quick look at Kierkegaard. He just gets up the hill right here and just loses it on the curb. Quick look at this again. And rounding this corner, gets on the curb right there and bounces into the wall. And that's it. That's how quickly it can end.
Yeah, just one of those small mistakes from Nikolai Kierkegaard on the grass, kept his foot in, the car got unsettled as he bounced across. Now, Will Palmer, through all of this, is now up into 6th position and going beautifully well. Remember, he was the champion back in 2015. He was also the McLaren Autosport Award winner that year as well. He's looking to try and put the other champion, former champion that we've got in the field, Enem Ahmed, under pressure. They've got Carter Williams ahead of them. Max Maserati sensibly stays out of harm's way, the white lapped car, and just make sure that he doesn't get involved in the quicker cars coming through. So good driving from Max Maserati there. But Will Palmer pushing hard, running wide and pushing the circuit limits a little bit there. For the moment, though, number of off tracks in this race, far fewer than I would have expected. You're allowed 20 in the race before you get disqualified, and most drivers are sort of 1, 2 or perhaps 3, so they're staying largely within the confines of the circuit.
Yeah, at the moment, and looks like there's even more issues for Callan O'Keefe, who's dropping down the order. What a shame. I think he's now out of this race, unfortunately, for Callan O'Keefe. He was running up in second, chasing Johnny Adam. He now drops out. So let's see if we can possibly see what happened to Callan O'Keefe here. Yeah, he's chasing after, but I think that's Kieran Vernon in front of him here. And is that the same place where Kierkegaard went off? Coming up the hill, yeah, loses it by himself, and off he went. Yeah,
exactly the same spot and the same outcome as well. Into retirement for Callan O'Keefe. Kieran Vernon already having gone through and passed him. Now there's Will Palmer. He runs a little bit wide as well. He's going to go into the pit wall if he's not careful. Just manages to hang on to it there, Will Palmer. But that must have been lots and lots of arm twirling to try and keep the car under his spell. He's going to lose out as Harrison Scott at unabated speed goes by. But Will Palmer just ran wide. And for a split second there, Jack, I was sure he was going to go in towards the Brands Hatch pit wall. But somehow gathered it all up.
That was a hell of a save from him right there. Unbelievable. It did well, very well, to keep it going in the straight line, Will Palmer, but only drops 1 position in the end of it. But that puts Harrison Scott, reminder, he started at the back of the grid. He's up to 5th place now, driving one-handed. Nico Verone chasing after Piers Pryor. The championship rivals are together on the track right now. So Pryor now leading ahead of Verone as they chase after Kieran Vernon. And I'm sure Kieran Vernon is going to do everything in his power to keep Piers Pryor behind him, because he's got Verone, his teammate, behind him.
He has, absolutely. Prior warning, Verone's coming is what they'll be saying. And all of this is just allowing, all of this incident that's going on has just allowed Johnny Adam to stretch his lead continually over the rest of the pack. Ben Hingley is now up into 2nd place, and Carter Williams for JHR Development up into 3rd place. But Verone going beautifully well. You suggested a top 10 was a possibility. Well, with all the incidents and accidents, Nico Verone is now running in 9th position and is not that far away from Piers Pryor, who is also looking to at least stay in the slipstream of Kieran Vernon. So over the start-finish line, they all managed to come. Johnny Adams still out front and leading the race. We have a quick look back at Nico Verone, just turning his way around through Surtees corner, applying the pressure to Piers Pryor. And we then look towards what will be a further replay of something that happened to Tom Maxwell during the course of that particular lap. We'll pick up on what it was very, very shortly.
Yeah, not quite seeing that on our end, but I think it was an issue for Tom Maxwell, who unfortunately is now out of the race. And you can see, yeah, that car is in pieces, so that's not been a good day. Now, just to make a note, actually, Johnny Adam out front of him, but Ben Hingley is lapping at about a second a lap faster than him. So it's not outside the realms of possibility that Ben Hingley could potentially catch up to him. There is only 10 minutes left at the moment, and Johnny Adam, I tell you what, is not too far up the road from Ben Hingley. This could come down to the wire if Hingley manages to keep up the pace. We'll have a look at the lap times that come across the line now. Johnny Adam just about to come across the line to set his lap as they come across now. It will be a 1:16.6. He's picked it up a little bit, but a 16.6 for Ben Hingley. So he's starting to pick it up a little bit now as they all lap within the same 1/10 of a second out front here.
Yeah, I think Johnny Adams' poor lap was because he had to deal with the back marker, which was Josh Skelton on that lap, so that just cost him a little bit of time. Now that he's got past the Chris Disman racing car of Josh Skelton, he can concentrate his efforts again and get clear track. Back towards the fight for 7th, 8th and 9th position, Kieran Vernon. Piers Pryor we look at in the Lannon racing machine that is in the middle of this little trio. And he's got Chris Dittman cars ahead of him. He's got another Chris Dittman car sitting behind him. Of which Nico Verone behind him is, of course, his main championship rival. Verone, 134 points coming into this evening. He'll be on 169 now. Piers Pryor was on 121, but he will have added to that as a result of his race 1 finish. Piers Pryor will desperately want to try and finish ahead of his main championship rival and try and close and diminish that gap a little bit more. We now have just 8.5 minutes of the race to go. They're on lap number 9, and Piers Pryor driving beautifully well. He's been so consistent, Piers Pryor, over the course of the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship season. There's only one time he has finished outside of the top 6 so far this season.
See if he can keep that run up now. He's chasing after 7th place, Kieran Vernon. Will Palmer just a little ways further up the road. Ben Hingley just a touch quicker than Johnny Adam that time, but Johnny Adam now starting to control the pace. Carter Williams, the fastest out of a lot of them. But these guys behind, Harrison Scott, Will Palmer, lapping much quicker, about a 4/10 to a half a second a lap quicker. Will Palmer now just trying to close into the back of Harrison Scott as they chase after Aina Ahmed, who's not far up the road either. So yeah, here we go. So this is Harrison Scott, and I believe that is Billy Monger up ahead of him as they're trying to lap here, as Will Palmer gets a little bit out of shape on the exit right there. So Palmer trying to keep with Harrison Scott at the moment now as they try to lap Billy Monger here in the Carlin cars. They're trying to make his way through at the back straight, and this is probably an ideal opportunity for Monger to make room to let him through. And Harrison Scott, I don't think he's a little too happy, a little weave towards Billy Monger that time.
Yeah, Billy Monger then runs wide, coming out of Hawthorne, which allows Will Palmer to go through, but he was briefly compromised, Will Palmer there. I thought Billy might blend off the throttle and just allow both of them to go through, but wasn't to be. So Harrison Scott wasn't happy, but Will Palmer probably lost more time than Harrison Scott in reality. So Scott now in 5th place with daylight between himself and the car that had been applying the pressure. Will Palmer just runs a little bit wide again coming out of Stirling, so needs to be careful there, does Will Palmer. But now the traffic has been dealt with, they can start to focus again and try and see whether they can close up. Yes, he's all over that time, isn't he? Yeah, at Clearways corner, Will Palmer, that will have dropped him down through the order now. By the time he rejoins, he's going to be clinging onto a place down towards the bottom of the top 10.
Yeah, he's dropped now behind. We look at Piers Pryor trying to get up underneath Billy Monger here. So they all go up one position as a result. So Palmer is still, big twitch coming out of Druids. Keeps it a straight line though. That car doesn't seem to be handling particularly well. It looks really skittish in the corners.
It makes you wonder whether he's got either a little bit of damage that he's carrying, or we did notice that 40-degree track temperature, if you push the tyres too hard, then maybe the tyres are starting to fall off. Billy Monger also running wide in the same way as Nikolai Kiergaard and co have done as well, Callan O'Keefe, but he managed to keep his car out of the barriers. Back towards the fight for 6th, 7th and 8th places. Still the Lannon Racing car of Piers Pryor is the meat in the Chris Dittman Racing sandwich at this stage, with Kieran Vernon ahead of him, with Nico Verone, the Argentinian who leads the championship, sitting directly behind him. 6 minutes of the race to go, and well, these three have been pushing each other to the absolute limit so far, and I can't see that anybody really has an advantage over anybody else. They are so evenly matched at this stage of the race, Jack.
Yeah, it's really hard to gauge who's going to be able to get the advantage on who, but definitely Pryor with the better slipstream head towards turn 1. Is he thinking about a move? He's going for it up the inside, but can't quite find the space, trying to get the cut back on the exit as they come out. Not quite close enough, but he's really starting to try now, and the pressure is mounting on Kieran Vernon, and Verona is just hanging back, hoping that they have an instant, of course, or that Pryor has an issue more than his teammates as they come down the hill once again. It's getting really feisty now as Piers Pryor tries to keep up his run of top 6 finishes.
Yeah, he really has been the man who himself and Nico Verone have had the look, they've had the pace. Here is 3rd place Carter Williams, about to be overtaken if he's not careful by former champion Enem Ahmed, who was really closed in at the wheel of the dark blue Carlin car over the course of the last few laps. Carter Williams, of course, racing for JHR Development. Enem Ahmed back racing for Carlin, the two of them absolutely together. Now their lap times at this stage had been quicker than some of the cars ahead, but now that they've caught up with each other, they're slowing each other up.
It was just a car off there. Josh Skelton was in the wall there at Sheen Curve, so he's managed to get going again, but I think he just did something similar to what Emma Fittipaldi Jr. did. As they carry through, we look at Carter Williams coming across the line to begin another lap, and Ben Hingley still taking time out of Johnny Adam at this point, but there's probably not enough time left in the session. That's Nikolai Kiergaard off at turn 1 in the background, gets back going again, but Aina Ahmed starting to pile the pressure on Carter Williams. It's a bit of a twitch from Ahmed through there as well. Harrison Scott, I tell you what, with a big slide coming through out of Druids right there. Definitely, I think the track temperature is playing a factor here, because the drivers are really having some issues with oversteer today.
They certainly are, aren't they? Yeah, we've seen so many incidents where cars have sort of lost it on power oversteer coming out of the corners, or have really, really struggled to apply the power in the normal fashion. So maybe, yeah, the tyre model with the new iRacing updates as well that we've had over the course of the last week or so is just affecting these cars in these warm conditions here at a virtual Brands Hatch. At 16.5 minutes of the race now gone, so we've only got 3.5 minutes to go, and we go back towards the fight for 6th, 7th and 8th, very much as they were, still equidistantly spaced, still in the same order. Piers Pryor from Nico Verone, but ahead of the pair of them is Kieran Vernon. So the order hasn't changed. They've been locked together for what, the best part of the last 10 minutes, have they not, Jack?
Yeah, exactly. They haven't been able to make any headway on each other because they're so evenly matched. There's nowhere to do. And now Piers Pryor looking like a good exit that time out of the last corner. You can see that Vernon is aware that Piers Pryor is very much there. He's had a personal best actually on that lap as they come up towards Druids, but he's not quite close enough to try anything. He has a little look. He shows himself in the mirrors into Druids that time. And again, that did put Vernon off a little because he ran a tiny bit wide. So Pryor is now starting to put the pressure on. It does seem that Pryor has got the advantage in Sector 1, but Vernon is just doing off that. That's another car spinning in the background. That's Josh Skelton again spinning. So there's plenty of drivers having issues with spins today, as we mentioned, but it looks like that Vernon just has the edge to hold off Piers Pryor for now as they head down towards Hawthorne again. Yeah, he's not close enough. He's just doing just enough, and this is going to be frustrating the hell out of Piers Pryor now.
Absolutely. I'm sure that Kieran Vernon and Nico Verone will be chatting away on the team radio, the Chris Dittman radio as well, to each other to try and hold up the main championship rival for Nico Verone. Here's Bart Horston. He has got Vladimir Choitsis sitting behind him. This is the fight for 12th and 13th position as they head downhill and then in towards the braking area. The Australian just ahead of the Cypriot, and then it will be smoke ahead, which suggests that somebody's had a bit of a moment heading up towards what would be Westfield Bend. But Bart Horston has had really a difficult old night, really. He had the pace in testing, but come qualifying didn't quite end up where he wanted to be, and has sort of been chasing it since there, hasn't he, all night?
Yeah, really hasn't gone the way of Bart Horston today, but yeah, always seems to be chasing after the guys up ahead. Carter Williams still holding on to that third place at the moment, but I tell you what, Harrison Scott is 1.2 seconds off the back, and he is coming for him. Harrison Scott with a podium from the back of the grid would be amazing, and we do like to remind you, he is driving one-handed with a broken wrist on his non-dominant hand, so it's really impressive. And there's not long to go in this race now. There's just going to take over to a minute to go. And it'll be close now with Johnny Adam as he comes across the line to see whether they're going to get another lap of racing. I don't think they're going to. So we could be heading on to the last lap now, and Johnny Adam in his guest drive could be on to take a win.
We've already seen a win for one guest driver. That was at Spa-Francorchamps, when we saw Tom Ingram, BTCC start, claim the win there. But for Johnny Adam, he's going to get another lap in here. The 4 times British GT champion with 4 different co-drivers as well, and 3 different teams, and of course former class winner at Le Mans, is now on to his last lap of the race. Carter Williams is clinging on to a podium here. He's got NM Ahmed right with him, the 2017 champion for Carlin Motorsport. The two of them holding each other up. Don't rule out the fact that Closing Evermore is a former runner-up in the BRDC Formula 4 Autumn Series from back in 2015, Harrison Scott. The 3 of them are absolutely together now. I think NM Ahmed is probably quicker than Carter Williams, but can't find a way by. And well, Harrison Scott is quicker than the pair of them. Can he, on the final lap, find a way through?
Well, here we go. Inam Ahmed trying to go to the outside of Hawthorne Bend. There's not many opportunities now as they head down towards. Watch for Harrison Scott, who's going to try and follow him through down the inside. Not quite going to be able to do it there now. Inam Ahmed looking for the cutback. This is going to go right down to the wire between these 3 for the podium. Johnny Adam is going to hold on, I think, for that win as they come around towards the last couple of corners now in his guest drive. It's going to be great to see Johnny Adam take the win. Second guest driver to win this season. We keep an eye on the battle for the podium though as they come towards the last couple of corners. Carter Williams holding on with every ounce of his might heading towards the line. You'll see now Johnny Adam rounding the last corner. What a drive from the Scots when he comes to the line, and he wins in Brands Hatch in the second race of the day in the reverse grid. Ben Hingley and Enam Ahmed versus Carter Williams to the line. Carter Williams just by a hair holds off Inam Ahmed. Harrison Scott from the back of the grid will come across in 5th, and Piers Pryor comes in 6th, Verone 7th, and Vernon with an issue, and he's dropped to 8th. So Will Palmer 9th, and it'll be Josh Mason in 10th. So Piers Pryor just hold on to that record of top 6 finishes.
He does, yeah, absolutely, and has at least gained a couple of points over his main championship rival. Here comes Mo Fittipaldi Jr. Had a spin midway through the race, but it's great to see the Fittipaldi name back in BRDC Formula 3. Of course, we have had Pietro Fittipaldi claim his maiden BRDC F3 win here at Brands Hatch a few years ago now. I was there for that one, and Mo Fittipaldi is going to come through, the teenage kart racer following in Dad's footsteps, the former Formula 1 champion, of course, and Mo comes over the start-finish line and finishes in 15th place. It was all rather close, wasn't it, for places thereafter, but Johnny Adam has done exactly what Tom Ingram did at Spa. He comes in as a guest driver and he's going to pick up top honours in this one. He won't be eligible for championship points, but Johnny Adam, it's great to see him claim a victory. We'll be grabbing a word with some of our drivers very, very shortly. I can see that already Ben Hingley, who finished in second place, is there and ready and waiting for us. But let's just run you down confirmation of the results. Johnny Adam claims the win. In second place for Fortec Motorsport is Ben Hingley, and JXR Developments, Carter Williams comes home in third place. NM Ahmed was fourth, ahead of Harrison Scott in fifth place, and Piers Pryor, the man who's second in the championship, finishes in sixth place, just ahead of the championship leader Nico Verone from the back of the grid to seventh. Kieran Vernon was in eighth place, ahead of Will Palmer and Josh Mason. Bart Halston was just outside of the top 10 in 11th place, with Vladimir Choitsis in 12th place. Chris Meelan was 13th and Ollie Clark in 14th place. Mo Fittipaldi Jr. finished in 15th place. Ulysses de Pauw in 16th, ahead of Jonathan Hoggard, Josh Skelton, Callum O'Keefe and William Winth, who finished as the last position inside the top 20. Nikolai Kiergaard had a rotten night, unfortunately, finishing 21st in that race. Max Maserati was 22nd, and then it was Tom Maxwell, Billy Munger, Jake Dalton out of luck again this evening. And Louis Foster didn't make either race, unfortunately. So that gives you the full rundown of the order. We will wait for some of the other drivers to come and join us. But while Ben Hingley is already sitting in the waiting room, let's bring Ben through and have a chat with Ben Hingley, who has just finished in second position. And Ben, congratulations, second place, your best result of the season so far.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks very much. It's been very difficult. I mean, Brands as well is such a difficult track, but I'm really pleased to get it here, to be fair.
You sort of, you were looking in your mirrors, I would imagine, towards the closing laps. Was everything under control, or were you driving as quick as you could and they were just still catching you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was catching Johnny a little bit. He got quite a considerable gap at the start, and then I started to chip away at it, and then, it's so difficult to follow around here, and I haven't. It's been a fair while before I've done a competitive race as well. So, so it was a good race. I started to catch him up a little bit, and then towards the end, just kind of went right. Okay, it's so hard to follow. I can't really get past. I'll just kind of sit for second.
You look at the way your season has gone so far in British Formula 3 iRacing Championship. Oulton Park really was a weekend to forget. Spa got a little bit better with a couple of top 10 finishes. You got a top 6 for the first time at Silverstone, and now you're on the podium for the first time. It's just each weekend has just got better and better and better.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm quite new to this whole iRacing scene. It wasn't until kind of Fortec and the F3 Championship, set this up and kind of came to me and said, "Oh, look, do you fancy having a go?" And I was like, "Well, I've got a steering wheel." So yeah, I jumped onto iRacing. I think it was like a couple of days before the Oulton round, and from there just got better and better, did some more practicing and just chipped away at it really, and I'm thankful to a lot of hard work's gone into this P2.
Final question for me before maybe Jack's got a couple for you. We've seen you after BRDC Formula 3, you went and did a little bit in FIA F3 and Asian Formula 3 and Euro Formula Open and GP3 tests. What are the plans, if any, for 2020?
Unfortunately, I couldn't go any further with my own racing career. Fakem backed me as much as they possibly could, and they were brilliant throughout. Unfortunately, it had to come to an end after the 2018 season, and I've always been in touch in the karting industry. So at the end of 2018 and the start of 19, I decided to set my own race team up, karting team called Ultimate R, and we've been pushing really hard. We've had some good results, so I've decided to take a back seat with my own racing career and kind of try and help some up and coming young karters into the likes of F3, British F3, and hopefully further.
And with your experience, absolutely, yeah, fantastic stuff. Jack, any questions?
Well, we head to the final round of the championship. for yourself, Ben. So, how would you rate your performance overall during the course of the season? Have you enjoyed your time in the British F3 iRacing Championship?
Yeah, it's been really good. I don't think, I mean, like I said, it's been a while since I've done some racing, but I feel just as nervous, if not more, sat in my own living room on this than I did on the actual grid. So it's been nerve-wracking, and it was a good finish to that race. But I look forward to Donny, and then maybe get involved in a couple of other races as well. Away from the F3 scene, but we'll wait and see.
Great stuff. That's all from me.
Well done. Congratulations, Ben, and we'll catch up with you at Donington Park. Well done.
Cheers. Thanks very much. Thank you.
There we go. So that was Ben Hinchley, who finished in second place. Let's grab a quick chat with a driver that finished in third place, which was Carter Williams. Carter, congratulations on the podium. Wow, that was quite a battle you were involved with towards the end.
Yeah, it feels good to be back on the podium. Honestly, having NM right behind me the whole race, to have the British F3 champion right behind you the whole race, a little bit intimidating, but it was fantastic. Held it together, and on a not an easy track. I mean, you dip one wheel into the grass and it's pretty much game over. So yeah, I'm very happy with that.
It seems as though it's on these difficult tracks where if you make a mistake, it costs you quite dearly. That you've done quite well, because your other podium was at Oulton Park. Very similar kind of parkland, traditional British circuit, narrow, tight, not easy to overtake.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, both of them were just kind of avoiding the mayhem and just really just keeping it clean and keeping it consistent. I felt like we had some decent pace at Spa. We just got caught in a few incidents in that, but yeah, it's kind of a trend, huh?
And JXR Development's a new team to British Formula 3 in terms of iRacing. They're likely to be making their debut in the 2020 season. Have you confirmed you're graduating up from British Formula 4 to British Formula 3 for 2020?
Still working on it at the moment, and right. That's where we want to be for sure. So that's 100% of our focus right now is trying to get into British F3 for 2020 or 2021 at the moment. But yeah, we'd love to.
Because you did test one of the cars. You tested for Lannan, did you not, at Donington Park back end of 2019, early part of 2020?
Yeah. We were fortunate enough to have the opportunity to test one of the Lannan cars. Graham called a couple of us up and said, "Hey, bringing out George Russell. Let's do a test day." And yeah, so only been in the car once, but hopefully again here soon.
And as you said, George Russell was at that test. What does that mean as a driver that's considering coming into that championship when you look at, George Russell as the second ever champion we had back in 2014, and subsequently what that did to his career as a stepping stone?
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. We're really thankful to have George there, and yeah, George. I've always considered George to be one of the best drivers that I've seen. So yeah, to know that I'm stepping into a championship that a lot of drivers have done really well and gone on to do great things. Yeah, it makes me feel pretty good.
Jack?
So Carter, obviously we're coming to the end of the championship now. So do you think that the British F3 iRacing Championship has given you kind of a good idea of what to expect from potential drive in a BRDC F3?
Yeah, really, it's just kind of the same thing. Everybody's going to be super quick. I think there's going to be less crashes in real life, but yeah, as far as competitiveness and speed, I expect it to be just as difficult, or even more difficult, really, in real life.
And I'm sure you're really looking forward to getting back in a real car after all the sim racing.
Definitely, I'm about burnt out with the sim at this point. So yeah, definitely ready to get back in.
Well done. Thanks for joining us, Carter. Well done on another podium.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
There we go, Carter Williams. I was hoping we might get the opportunity to chat to Johnny Adam as our race winner, and of course the guest driver, and also Mo Fittipaldi Jr. But it would appear, Jack, neither of them are around.
No, nobody wants to talk to us today, Mark, apparently. So very uninteresting, apparently.
Story of my life, Jack. Story of my life. Brands Hatch dished up everything that we thought it would be, including a few technical issues at the front end of the stream. So again, ladies and gentlemen, apologies for that, but we resolved those. And I've got to say thank you to Mark Tranter stepping in as a last-minute producer to produce this after technical issues with Samuli's laptop, we think. But it served up everything we thought it would have. Some great racing, lots of slipstreaming battles, and a few incidents along the way as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is one person who's left to talk to us. Piers Pryor is going to drop into us. So, Piers, welcome to the commentary box once again. You keep up the run of top 6 finishes. Another good day for you, but a great battle between Vernon and Verone between yourselves.
Oh my god, that was stressful, wasn't it? I was in a CDR sandwich, and that's not where you want to be. But yeah, it was great fun. I had 2 really good races actually. It's literally potentially the most mentally stressed I think I've ever been in my life, because round here, especially when you're following people close, you go 2 inches, 3 inches wide anywhere, and you're off. Like obviously Ollie showed that in the first race. He was rapid and just put a wheel on the grass, and that was it. So I was just like beads of sweat falling down my brow trying to keep on the track. But no, really, really good fun. It's shame that Kieran lost on that last lap, because he followed me all of the first race and I followed him all the second race. So it would have been quite good to have just followed each other home. But yeah, well, I'm not complaining though, obviously. A couple of extra points, but
You cleared up what happened there, because I was wondering whether a bit of CDR team tactics had come into it, and that was how you managed to sneak through and get through Piers. So it was a mistake, was it, from Kieran?
Yeah, I think he just dropped a wheel on the exit of the Druids, which is a shame for him really, because I'd been right on him, less than half a second pretty much the whole race. And then I made a mistake on the penultimate lap, and he gapped me by about 6 or 7 tenths. So he pretty much got the job done. I think it must have just been it's so easy, as I said, so easy to just drop a wheel on the grass here. But no, really, really good fun race. Finally beat Nico in a race, which is quite happy about, to be honest. Although, to be honest, I don't think he was actually going to try and pass me.
Well, you beat him last week as well.
Yeah, true. But, yeah.
How are we going to slow this Nico Veroni down for the rest of the season, Piers?
Oh, I don't know. Has anyone got the internet codes to, like, I don't know, South America or something? Just cut him off or something like that.
We sort of seem to chat to you every week, and you're one of these drivers that seems to have the most enormous enthusiasm for BRDC F3, even though you've not raced in it as yet. You must be itching, and it's a strange way to start your first season of car racing when we get it underway in August, and it's all rather condensed. But you must be looking forward to it either way.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Starting a season, what would be about halfway through the season, but. Yeah, I'm sure that the listeners at home are probably getting bored of hearing my voice. I'm on every week, and I've only won 1 race and had like 1 podium. But I thought I'd come and have a chat. You seemed like you were lonely in here, so. But no, it's been really good fun. I'm really looking forward to getting going again. I think testing's starting fairly soon. Got to get my final exams out of the way. I had one on Tuesday. Got a couple more, but then I'm full-time Formula 3 driver, hopefully. Yeah, but really looking forward to getting going. And yeah, this is really good practice, I suppose, as I say, every week's really good practice, just keeping mentally in the zone, I suppose. And no, well done to Johnny Adam as guest driver winning as well. We've had 2 guest winners now, haven't we?
They're quick, aren't they? We keep choosing the right ones. Back to your studies and things before Jack's, I'm sure, got a couple of final questions for you. Yeah, busy time for you with the uni and your studies. It's motorsport engineering, is it not?
Automotive materials engineering, but
right.
Fairly similar. Yeah, fairly similar. Loughborough don't do motorsport, unfortunately, but I've got a pretty good course anyway. I'm quite enjoying it, and yeah, final 2 exams, and that's uni over. 4 years done, which is a bit of a weird sensation, but onward and upward. Hopefully, a bit more racing to come in the future.
And how much of what you learn at uni is going to be transferable into motorsport, either as a driver or as a career? Have you set into it in another way, shape, or form?
I suppose there's no direct stuff that we're taught that actually makes a difference to what I'm driving in F3. But I suppose having a good engineering mind and knowing sort of forces and moments and whatever gives me an understanding of how the car works, how potential set up things affect the car, and it's just a bit of a deeper understanding. And also I find it quite interesting as well. So I'm just interested in how the cars work. But more than that, it's just I suppose just good to be in with what happens in a race, racing car. I suppose if you're completely unaware of why everything does what it does, then you're not going to remember it as well. So I suppose it helps in that sense, but not directly. But again, it's just if the racing doesn't work out, then I've got something to fall back on. But hopefully, I don't ever need to use my degree.
Jack.
Yeah, good stuff. I hope that I don't get to use mine either. But so we're heading to the final round of the championship next week as well, Donington. So is Donington a track that you're a fan of, or do you have much experience of driving around it? And overall as well, how would you rate your performance overall in this championship?
Overall in the championship, I suppose the points suggest I'm doing all right. I think I probably could have done slightly better, but as Nico's shown. But yeah, pretty happy with how it's going. I think the pace is not bad, consistency is not bad. So if I can carry on that into the real season, that'll be good. But no, Donington GP, I'm pretty sure, isn't it? So that'll be good. Haven't driven there for a couple of months on the sim, but and never actually driven on the GP circuit in real life. But yeah, it's a great fun circuit, especially in quali, because it's the average speed is really high. It'll be a bit like round Brands Hatch here. That I reckon the race will be fairly in line astern, and then once someone makes a mistake, it'll all bottleneck up and create some action, and also it'll be concentration station again, because again you put one wheel wrong there and you're off. So yeah, hopefully 2 more clean races, and if I can carry on not getting binned and not binning myself, then we should hopefully be somewhere where I want to be in the championship by the end of the round, which would be good.
Good stuff. That's all from me.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very
Well
much.
done,
Hopefully see you
Piers.
next
Thanks
week.
again. Cheers.
No worries. Bye.
So there we go, Piers Pryor, the final driver that we will chat to, and we seem to have had a chat to him. Yeah, absolutely every week. It's always good to have a catch up with Piers Pryor. So yeah, we're done and dusted, as we've suggested, Jack. On to Donington Park next week. You know, an undulating circuit again. Not huge amounts of overtaking opportunity, but as we are on the Grand Prix circuit there, not the national circuit, we've got the 2 hairpins, which I'm sure are going to be some of the opportunities where drivers will look to try and gain the advantage and sneak a place away.
Yeah, good stuff. I don't think that is actually everyone, Mark. I believe we've got Nico Verone waiting for us. So we'll drag him in, and also Johnny Adam is in contact with me, so we'll try and get Johnny in.
Right.
But
we've already had a word with Nico, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, but we'll drag him in again. Nico, another fantastic race between yourself and Vernon, and yourself and Pryor as well. That was a really tricky one.
Yeah, I knew race 2 would be really, really difficult. So yeah, it's just avoiding incidents in the first laps. Managed to. My objective was I knew Pierce was in front. So yeah, I managed to go behind him, and if he passes someone, I would go for the overtake, and planning the race in that way intelligently, so that I could take points and without risking anything, and yeah, extend a little bit the lead in the championship.
When you saw Kieran Vernon make a mistake in the closing stages of the race, did he sort of stay well and truly out of the way? Because we didn't see exactly what happened there, but that allowed yourself and Piers Pryor to sneak through.
Yeah, he what happened was he went a little bit off. Here in France, if you make a mistake, you go into the grass. He went a little bit onto the grass and lost 2 places, but then he finished behind me. So it was a little bit mistake, but in France, it can be with huge consequences. So yeah, good points for Chris Dittman Racing. First and fifth, I think, in the first race, and 7 and P7 and P8 on the race 2. So yeah, good, really good points. So we should be also on top in the team championship.
I was about to make the same point. Yeah, you've sort of extended your, subject to official confirmation, you'll have extended your championship lead over Piers Pryor, and Chris Dittman Racing may well have overtaken Lannon Racing in the team's championship. So it could have been the perfect night generally, with just 2 more races to go. It's beautifully poised for Donington Park next week.
Yeah, obviously it was fantastic. Now the last race on Donington, I think it's going to be difficult. It's going to be really difficult, but yeah, looking forward to it.
Well done, Nico. Congratulations, and good luck at Donington.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
There we go, Nico Verone. We thought Piers Pryor was going to be the last driver we'd speak to. I forgot about Nico Verone, but now we've got Johnny Adam is going to join us as well. Johnny, welcome along to the commentary box. Mark Werrell here, guest driver. You've pitched up for the 2nd time in the BRDC F3 iRacing Championship, but you've won this one. Well done.
Thank you. That was great fun. Drew a bit of a lucky draw there, getting the grid reverse, and I have to say I felt more pressure than anything else. Trying to keep a bit of a gap, because the guy in second was extremely fast, and try not make any track limits or any mistakes. So it's good. The sim world for me is very, very new. I'm only kind of used to it for about 3 or 4 months now, but I have to say, stuff like that, with the adrenaline, with obviously the mindset of obviously trying to keep a small gap, kind of gets the juices flowing for obviously getting back in the real thing hopefully soon. So it was good fun, really enjoyed it. Love Brands as a circuit. It's a circuit I really enjoy from the GT side of things, through British GT, and not done a lot in F3, so slowly learning my trade in that.
It can't be any more nerve-wracking than Le Mans a couple of years ago, surely. That must have got the heart rate going even more.
I have to say, this wasn't far behind.
Was it not?
No, no. Obviously, that was a special moment in my career, but asked them to do that. But I have to say, big thank you to British F3 for inviting me along to have a bit of fun. And the guys at the front are so fast. They're so fast. They're doing so much testing behind the scenes to just be consistent. And I am pretty much a rookie at this, but really enjoying it, and well organised, series and good coverage as well. So fills the time, and it's good fun as well.
A couple of final quick questions from me, Johnny. I think you're back testing earlier on this week, where you're back behind the wheel of a car as you look towards focusing your efforts on the British GT Championship, for which already 4 times the champion with 4 different teammates. Your team back up with Ahmed El Harthi for this year, who you've been very successful with in Europe. So you must think that you've got a good package in place again.
Yeah, the package is, I'd say, very strong this year. You know, Ahmed is a good friend, a guy who's driven and Aston for about 5 or 6 years, so he's a great
Yeah.
customer to ours. And he's not done much in the UK for the last 4 years, 5 years. He's mostly concentrated in Europe. But yeah, he's tested well. He's really hungry to come back to British GT, and the grid looks amazing. You know, the entry list got announced in March on the media day, and to see so many GT3 cars is quite refreshing this year. So looking forward to that. And just looking forward to getting going racing wise. We tested this week, and it was great to get in a car for quite a long time. We've been out the car, 3.5 months. So it felt weird to get back in one, but it felt so nice. So hopefully we can get some more testing, hopefully organised in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and put a bit of a plan together to come back and hopefully try and have a good season in British GT.
And sort of the final question in that respect, no disrespect to any of the other drivers that you've won the championship with, but you've probably spent more time either with Andrew Howard or Ahmed El Harthi in cars racing domestically in the British GT Championship over the course of the last few years, or in Ahmed's case in Europe as well. How much easier is it to sort of then, when you're looking at doing another championship season with them, to you've already got the relationship, you're starting from the basis that you both know each other. It must be very easy to work together, is it?
Yeah, it is. I think the key thing in GT racing nowadays, it's very much you've got your factory status in terms of Le Mans, the World's Endurance Championship, but then the customer side for me is so important, and it is to Aston Martin. So, teaming up with people like Andrew Howard, Ahmed Hathi, and others, it's very important, but you have to work with them as a personality as well. Hence why behind the scenes, I do a lot of sim stuff at Base Performance with the customers to try and really put that extra little bit effort in, because the cars are so expensive to run nowadays, the GT3 cars. So behind the scenes to try and get them right up to speed before free practice one. And the level of British GT, especially the AM side of things, is massively increased over the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years. So you have to really make them at the top of their A game, really, and that does make a big difference. So we'll put the work behind the scenes again with Ahmed and see if we could come out strong in August.
Jack?
Yeah, so Johnny, obviously the sim world has sort of taken over in the past couple of months. So can you see yourself using the sim to keep yourself sharp in the off season going forward?
Yeah, that was the big thing. I spoke to my good friend Charlie Eastwood, and he kind of twisted my arm unfortunately, before lockdown. It was probably December, January. I actually got the sim, and I've done so much with customers, but actually just concentrated with the customer, not with myself. So I thought, what better to actually buy myself a home sim and try and just put that extra little bit mileage in for myself. And it's great because nowadays the softwares are so good, and the circuit models are so clear and precise that circuits that we've maybe never been to for 12 months or sometimes a couple of years, you could learn quite a lot on the sim, and it's got so much data with Motec, etc. So it's for me, it's a great tool. It's just that extra little bit of practice behind the scenes that I mentioned from the customers, but even from my side, it's only going to help. So I'm really enjoying it. I do get frustrated because I am quite new to it. Some of the quick guys are super quick, but I'm just doing it to have a bit of fun and just keep my racing brain just going until we actually get back to the real thing.
Good stuff. That's all from me, Johnny.
Thanks for joining us, Johnny. Say hi to the family up there as well, and we'll catch them and you very soon.
Will do. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
There we go. So Johnny Adam, I think that is now the final driver that we've been chatting to. So I think we've got through them. The only one we missed out on was unfortunately Mark Blundell at the front because of the technical issues. But I'm sure we'll get Mark Blundell back for a chat another time. And Emo Fittipaldi unfortunately disappeared, so we've not been able to chat to him. But it's good to finally catch up with everybody. And as we said, Jack, we look forward to Donington Park next week for the final rounds. We're going to be crowning our inaugural champion, aren't we, next week?
It's hard to believe that the time has passed so quickly that we've gone to the final round at Donington Park. But yeah, obviously it's a tricky circuit to overtake. It's quite narrow. You've got your best overtaking opportunities around in sector 3 around the back of the circuit. We're using the full GP layout, so we'll have the back hairpin as well, which provides some fantastic overtaking opportunities as well. But it's going to be great. Verone has the upper hand, of course, but there's nothing to say that he can't have an issue, and Piers Pryor can pounce, I suppose.
Consistency, and to crown any champion, consistency is the key to get there in the first place. Yeah. So from Jack Canaan, who has joined myself, Mark Werrell in commentary, thank you also to Mark Tranter for stepping in last minute on the production side. Fantastic stuff, Mark. But from all of us here at the British Formula 3 iRacing Championship, in association with Apex Racing TV, don't forget we'll be back this time next week for the finals at Donington Park. Until then, goodbye.